Hey there, I'm Mark, in affiliation with Spectrum Pulse, and yeah, another slower week. I'm not complaining, and it's Billboard Breakdown. I don't remember. So this week, feels like it should not feel strange to me, but it kind of does, mostly as a calm before the storm that could well come next week. I fully expect the 21 Savage album to have some impact on the Hot 100. If you don't think that's the case, you don't remember how disruptive Kodak Black was when he dropped a project in late 2018, which is a little less than you might expect, but was enough to be memorable at that time. I guess if there's going to be a sign of how much fatigue there is for that brand of mainstream rap, it's going to be showed next week, so I guess stay tuned. But before we get to all of that, we got the expected, very uneventful week to sort through here. Beginning with our top 10, where I might as well just read off the streaming order for a lot of these holiday songs. The majority where they're all slotting in. All I Want for Christmas Is You by Mariah Carey, breaking the record for a number of weeks at number 1. Although, given the way that Billboard breaks their own rules for holiday songs, it feels like the cheapest headline that they're ever gonna write. Come on. But whatever, Rockin' Around the Christmas Tree by Brenda Lee's at number 2, Last Christmas by Wham at number 3, and this is where apparently a slight radio edge will get the boost over Jingle Bell Rock by Bobby Helms at number 4, and that's something that apparently Santa Tell Me by Ariana Grande does not have, but still more than enough streaming to get up to number 5. Then we got the 2 non-holiday cuts, Golden from K-Pop Demon Hunters at number 6. Despite streaming losses, it is winning the positional game on sales and holding just enough on the radio, and that was enough to just keep back The Fate of Ophelia by Taylor Swift at number 7, pretty much across the board. Now that takes us to 3 more holiday songs to close out our top 10, and where it appears radio is that slight edge that kind of will matter. The Christmas Song by Nat King Cole has it, so it sits at number 8. Over Underneath the Tree by Kelly Clarkson at number 9, which appears to have a streaming push only, then followed by It's the Most Wonderful Time of the Year by Andy Williams at number 10, who also has that slight radio advantage to make up for slightly weaker streams. Now, this will take us to our losers and dropouts, and we barely have any this week, given how otherwise quiet the Hot 100 is right now. Perhaps the biggest in the latter category are Back in the Saddle by Luke Combs, The Dead Dance by Lady Gaga, and The Life of a Showgirl by Taylor Swift featuring Sabrina Carpenter. And let's be real, nobody's losing any sleep over any of those. And we only got 2 losses here this week too. Nobody's Girl by Tate McRae continuing to lose traction at 90, and Darlin' by Chase Matthew mercifully down to 89. Again, nobody's gonna get that fussed about either of these. I am certainly not complaining. So might as well jump straight to our returns and gains. And let's handle the latter first, because there's only one of note, and that's for Shake the Snow Globe by Gwen Stefani off the debut up to 74, where I'd chalk it up to a holiday burst and nothing else. Certainly not quality. Now, it's a similar case for the holiday boost for a slice of our returns. There's No Place Like Home for the Holidays by Perry Como back at 42, Happy Holidays by Andy Williams at 46, and Linus and Lucy, the Peanuts theme by the Vince Guaraldi Trio at 50. But we actually have more returns that aren't from holiday music, that appear to be jockeying for some desperate position near the bottom of the Hot 100. Eternity by Alex Warren at 79, which appears like it's got a remix with Gigi Perez that's now seeing the push. I Ain't Coming Back by Morgan Wallen featuring Post Malone at 94, Beautiful Things by Megan Maroney at 95, and 3 AM by Lo Shimmy and Don Toliver at 98. Most I can think with the last 3 songs here, they got a lot of tracks getting forced out by holiday stuff near the top. Something has to take advantage of the positional gains, I guess. But we somehow have even fewer new arrivals this week. Again, I'm not complaining that much, given that I'm right in the middle of drafting year-end list for my main channel, alongside a bunch of other reviews, but might as well give y'all another world hit for the trouble. From Lizzy McAlpine, Pushing It Down and Praying.
I need to want something more. He gives what he can, but now I don't know what he's given for.
So there's a part of me kind of unsurprised that Lizzy McAlpine isn't seeing more crossover success. Yeah, she makes some very accessible pop folk, but how much of a diet the mainstream public has for that sound outside of adult contemporary radio can be surprisingly limited, especially when McAlpine's writing or arrangements don't feel quite as idiosyncratic as a Lucy Dacus or Phoebe Bridgers. And that's kind of a shame because she's made a solid amount of music I really like, with this song coming from the deluxe version of her album from last year, with a lot of haggard acoustics and faint somber twinkles, with some slightly processed backing vocals humming around her that do a great job balancing some polish and homespun intimacy, at least until the country-esque electric guitars and heavier grooves drop through and give the song a much heavier timbre, which I honestly think she didn't really need to do given the subject matter. I was relieved they went back to a more intimate texture by the outro of the song. And on the surface, this would not seem that deep when you look at the lyrics. McAlpine isn't over an ex and she can't help but overlay his face over the new guy. There's a few direct references to her 2021 song Erase Me, but what I think actually really works is how, well, graphic it is. It's mid-sexual encounter. The bridge makes some very telling double entendres, as does the outro. The sort of thing that might seem out of sorts for this pop folk ballad that would be more innocent, but it's used to ramp up the intensity of how her new partner just isn't satisfying her, and she wants to feel more guilty about how she's not doing it the same way that her ex did, with the desperate prayer that said new partner won't see it in her eyes mid-orgasm that it isn't quite the same. I mean, it's why I don't love bringing in that heavier instrumentation. It's too obvious and on the nose, where if it remained uncomfortably close and intimate, you'd paradoxically probably get more impact, feel less like Phoebe Bridgers and more Lucy Dacus. And as it is, I like this a lot. I can't imagine it being a hit in the States the way that it's a minor breakthrough in Canada, but we'll have to see. Otherwise, y'all should hear it. And now on for our two, yes, just two, new songs this week. Number 99, I Thought I Saw Your Face Today by She and Him.
My head away, your face against the trees, but I just see the memories as they come, as they come.
So I've been seeing some flickers across social media of Gen Z or Gen Alpha nostalgia for what was considered peak millennial, aka late 2000s, early 2010s, with a lot of recession signifiers and the appearance of actual joy. Now, I don't buy into the whole recession pop thing. It feels really forced and misses a lot of the messiness of the club boom. But if there are kids who look back on that era where there were some hard times, but we attempted to find more earnest joy and compare it to, well, nowadays, and they think it's better, especially if the act never broke through before, I mean, I guess I understand it. But you're using it to bring back She and Him, the old vanity music project of Zooey Deschanel and M. Ward from out of Portland, a very twee indie pop duo that I thought were really overrated at the time, and where the rest of the world caught up to that sentiment in the mid-2010s. There were no shortage of acts like this, to the point where it's hard to assign all the blame to just one, especially those who desperately wanted to be the Civil Wars and didn't have the writing or performance to back it up. And for this song, look, I lived through this era. I heard this brand of coffee house and jazz pop that forgot what subtlety was so many times, where the drums were too blocky and too loud alongside the overarranged strings and the goddamn whistling. But the problem, at least for me with She and Him, it's always been Deschanel's vocals and writing. She's got more presence than fine control. She doesn't really tap into any sort of wistful longing at thinking that she saw her ex and then falling back in love with that moment, even if everything else is telling her it's a bad idea. It feels more like a setup for a rom-com. And you know, I'd be more tolerant of this on novelty, but then I look at Olivia Dean's A Couple Minutes that's charting right now that quite frankly improved on a pretty slipshod template all the same. Better vocals, better production, considerably better writing. So yeah, I know, I get why folks are nostalgic for this era. I don't want to be a critic of nostalgia around the holidays, but y'all can do so much better than this. Try a little harder. And finally, number 71, Let's Do It by Lil Baby, Playboi Carti, and Skooly.
Black boy, white boy, swag, I'm headed like I'm Spanish. We go SPJ, it's a pool party, test me when you win. Cut out you like a fish, can play with them numbers like Lotto. See, in the Corvette, 2 rides, smiling on the hood.
But on the the flip side, if the only other thing we're getting is a song that was previously leaked and thus has been apparently repackaged by Lil Baby into a compilation project called The Leaks, I get why some folks might be nostalgic. Look, I was never that big of a Lil Baby fan to begin with. He saw some improvement in the late 2010s, he hit his very low ceiling, and his grind set lyrics haven't been interesting since. And I can't imagine adding Playboi Carti would help that, especially when it's anchored to a truly atrocious Rich Kid sample with an obnoxiously oppressive squealing synth and Skooly dazedly crooning "What's up" before the badly mastered bass and rattling trap percussion swamp out the song. I mean, Skooly comes back to handle the hook, he somehow sounds even less interested. The most I will give Lil Baby that he's trying to evoke the sound of a past when Rich Kids still mattered, beyond being a truly abysmal duo 15 years ago, and then trying to sell his come up since then, trying to be a little nostalgic for it. But his verse comes after Playboi Carti warbles through his lower register through a slew of brand names gunplay, flexing that his girl is now the hottest. I had to check to see that it wasn't Iggy Azalea, but some other model. Hey, Playboi Carti, why don't you pay your child support already? And then referencing Tame Impala in perhaps their worst possible year. And I got no idea why anyone finds Playboi Carti's bad Young Thug / Future impression receiving any acclaim at all. But given how the former's been doing nothing of note for years now, and the latter is effectively taking this year off, I gotta think the only reason this is getting any attention is absence of anything else. So yeah, the production here is the reason I got no desire to hear more. Again, not to be a critic of nostalgia, but come on folks, if you want to bring stuff back, do better. And yeah, that's the week. And pretty damn lousy, but I guess the best is going to she and him for at least competent production, trying to say a little bit more, even if the execution is really underwhelming, with the worst going to Let's Do It by Lil Baby, Playboi Carti, and Skooly, mostly because that sample was god-awful. Next week, I guess we'll see how deep 21 Savage can impact the charts. It could be interesting. But until then, I'm Mark, you're watching Billboard Breakdown, affiliated with Spectrum Pulse, and I'll see you next time.